You know what? I really don't feel bad about it because none of y'all are gonna read this anyways. Hey y'all, my name's Merritt. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a reading vlog where we read about other Merediths. So I decided that this would be a fun experiment for me because I wanted to see how similar I am to the fictional characters that share my name. Is this a new personality quiz? Maybe, I don't know. But I thought it would be fun because I've really never read a lot of books with characters that share my name. If I am ever mentioned as a character, it's like a side character that like dies randomly. Like I know that I am in, well, not me, but like characters that share my name. There's a Meredith in Vampire Academy who's like a really random side character that's just kind of there. And I haven't read the Vampire Diaries and I thought about reading it for this video, but I decided that I just didn't want to put myself through that. Also has a character named Meredith in it. So I did a lot of internet research and I managed to find 3 books that have fictional Merediths in it. And throughout this vlog, what we're gonna be doing is seeing how similar these Merediths are to me. Is it just my name that's similar with them, or is there something deeper to it? I kind of got inspired from one of my recent videos. That sounds really weird that like one of my own videos inspired another video of mine, but I thought that it was a cool concept to read books with similar covers. So why not read books with characters with similar names to me? My mind. Anyways, let's just get into the TBR for this reading vlog. First of all, we're going to be reading a paranormal fantasy called A Kiss of Shadows, and I believe this was released in the 90s. It's older than most recent publications because, you know, it came out 20 years ago. Really good logic there, Meredith. And this follows a character named Meredith, obviously, and I believe she was exiled from the High Fairy Court, and because of this, she has now become a supernatural detective. And this one just sounds so interesting. Like, I don't know what it is about this book, but I am really wanting to start with this one, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to be reading this one first. And then I have my first Agatha Christie, which is Five Little Pigs. Now, the main character is not named Meredith in this book. It's actually a side character that's named Meredith, so we have a little bit of variety, a little bit of spice in this vlog. It's not all just about me. But what I've gathered about this book is that it is a closed case that has been reopened because the person who was convicted 16 years ago has told her daughter that she actually isn't guilty. So the daughter has the police reopen the investigation and it follows that crime. And I'm interested in seeing how the Meredith in this book compares to me because she is a side character and I don't know how many of her thoughts we'll actually get. So it's gonna be a lot of investigation with this one to actually see the similarities. And the last book that I'm going to be reading for this reading vlog is The Lake District Murder, and this character is actually not named Meredith. Their last name is Meredith. So again, with the variety, we really had to get creative with this because there are not a lot of books with protagonists named Meredith. We're gonna be reading this, and I believe with this one, a dead body was found in a garage and it launches into an investigation. So this is a British crime detective story, which is totally out of my comfort zone. It is nothing like I've ever read. And so I think that with this TBR, I'm really branching out of my comfort zone and really reading things that I would never pick up otherwise. I would never read a paranormal fantasy on my own. I have never read an Agatha Christie, nor have I really wanted to before this reading vlog. And I would never pick up a British crime story. So we're diversifying my reading taste, hopefully, and we're going to see how similar these Merediths are to this Meredith. So if you're interested in this idea, stay tuned. It's gonna be a blast, and I'll catch up with you guys when I'm 50% of the way through my first book, which is going to be A Kiss of Shadows. Hey guys, so this vlog is off to a terrible start because I made it less than 100 pages into A Kiss of Shadows, and I've decided that I'm going to DNF it. So this is not the book's fault, to be completely fair. I did not know fully what this book was until I was reading it. And I started to get really confused because I thought that this was a paranormal fantasy or something along those lines. It was about the fairies, and I was like, okay, we're gonna be at the night court doing things with Feyre and Rhys, and that was not what this was at all. And if you want more context for that, go look at the Goodreads reviews like I should have when I was doing research for this video, because there's a lot of explanations as to why I would want to DNF this book there. This book is good for what it was, but since I haven't finished it, I really can't make any assumptions about it. But let's just say that the characterization and the plot was completely brushed aside for other things. And this is not the kind of book that I would pick up on my own, nor is it the book that I want to read. No shade to you if that is what you like to read, but personally, it's a pass for me. I will say that I did learn a few things about the fictional Meredith in this book, so we're going to discuss what I thought about her. So one thing I noticed about the Meredith in this book is that she is a very strong character. She knows what she wants and she's gonna go get it, and no one's gonna stop her from doing that. And I really feel like I can connect to that aspect of this fictional Meredith because I am, if I do say so myself, very strong-willed, and if I want something, I'm going to do anything to get that. As far as like her physical characterization, she was described as having red hair and green eyes with gold rims in them. And while I don't have red hair, well, I did dye my hair red at the middle of quarantine a few months ago. It's not very red anymore, so I don't think I can say that that characterization aligns with mine. But I do have like green eyes with gold in them, so kind of similar physically, I guess. A few other things that I noted about her is that she's a princess, but she doesn't want to be treated like one. She went through a really traumatic situation and she doesn't want any pity for herself. And anytime that someone does pity her, she's like, listen, I am a strong woman. I don't need your sympathy. And I really admire that about this fictional Meredith. Can I say that I'm the same? Sort of. I don't necessarily want pity from people, but I don't know if I am as strong as her in all situations. Like, I am strong in the sense that I'll go after what I want, but she's really resilient and she goes through these traumatic situations and she doesn't let that stop her from doing anything, which I can find really admirable. So that is all that I learned about this fictional Meredith. Not very much because I didn't read that much of the book, and I hate to DNF it so early into this vlog, but this book would not get a fair rating if I finished it just because it is not the kind of book that I want to read. So we're gonna put this one behind us. Next, I'm going to be picking up Five Little Pigs by Agatha Christie, so I will check in with you guys around the 50% mark. Hopefully I don't DNF this one too. But I've heard really great things about Agatha Christie, so I don't think that I will. I think I'll be able to get through this. And also it's really short, so I should definitely be able to at least force myself to finish it if I find myself really disliking it. So I'll catch up with you guys in just a little bit. Hey guys, I am 50% of the way done with my second book for this reading vlog, so I wanted to talk about my feelings as well as just give you guys a few little updates. I am sorry if my face is extremely red. I was just sitting outside in the blazing hot sun because I thought that was a good idea for some reason, and I decided to continue Five Little Pigs by Agatha Christie, and I kind of got the book summary wrong when I first described it to y'all, so I want to quickly amend that. It's pretty accurate to what I said earlier, but basically this book follows a detective who is investigating a closed case where a mother killed her husband by poisoning him, and the mother actually sent the daughter a letter for her to open when she turned 21, saying that she was actually innocent, she didn't kill her husband, and the mother is actually dead. So that's what I didn't know before when I was giving out the summary, and I think that really impacts like how this story plays out because the mother can't be called into questioning. She can't really give any new information to the detective, and so there's really nothing to go off of here except for interviewing witnesses from 16 years ago. So it's like you really don't know what's happening because they don't remember what happened. Like, I can't even remember yesterday. I could definitely not remember 16 years ago. So it's interesting from that standpoint of these people trying to recall what happened all those years ago. I actually did not realize that the Meredith in this book was actually a man. And I will go into depth as to how we're similar characteristically when I've actually finished this book, because I am going to finish this one. I'm not going to DNF it like I DNF'd A Kiss of Shadows. This one's definitely more exactly what I was expecting. I don't know if I'm going to say it's like a stellar book. I think right now, if I had to rate it, I would give it 3 stars because I'm enjoying it, but it's not blowing me away. It's mostly just dialogue. There's not really any description, so it's going by pretty fast. And also the text on the pages is huge. So it's a really easy read, but I also am just not invested in the story overall. I think that I would read another Agatha Christie after this. I mean, I haven't even finished this one, so who knows? Maybe she'll blow me away, maybe I'll hate it. I'm making way too many assumptions for only reading 120 pages of one of her books. That's all I pretty much have to say about it because, like I said, I'm going to leave the characterization of Meredith until I have actually finished the book because there's a lot. Like, I have tabbed a lot of different pages. I'm surprised by how much characterization Meredith is actually getting in this book because I thought that he was going to be a side character and it's the 5 little pigs, at least from my understanding, is basically like the 5 suspects in this murder. And I don't know if he's necessarily like assumed as a suspect, but it's all the people that the detective is interviewing. So we're getting a lot more time with him than I thought that we would. And he's actually really well characterized, which makes me think that he might be like the person that murdered the wife, or no, not the wife, the husband all those years ago, but I can't figure out a motive. So I don't really know who killed the husband. I'm kind of inclined to believe that the wife did it anyways. I'm interested in seeing where the story goes, who ends up being the murderer, and I'm interested in seeing the further characterization of Meredith and what we have in common, because so far we have a startling amount in common. Like, this experiment is going pretty well, all things considered. I mean, I did DNF my first book, but like what I've gathered about each fictional Meredith that I've read is that we have more in common than I thought that we would. So I will update you guys when I am 100% done with 5 Little Pigs, and then I will tell you how similar I am to the Meredith in this book. Hey guys, it's later today, and I have actually finished 5 Little Pigs by Agatha Christie. And first I'm going to talk about what I thought about this book as a whole, and then I'll launch into how similar I am to the fictional Meredith in this book. So first of all, I think I'm going to give this book 3.5 stars. There were a lot of points in this book that I did really like, but I will say that overall the book kind of bored me, and I really don't feel that I should be bored in a mystery thriller. Like, the whole point of a mystery thriller to me is to be on the edge of my seat, to constantly be guessing the twists and the turns. And while I was guessing what was going to happen in this book, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by the end, I just didn't really find myself super invested in the overall storyline. And I just don't know why that is, but I am interested in picking up more works by Agatha Christie in the future, because 3.5 is a pretty positive rating for me. I honestly didn't know what I was going to rate this until maybe the last 20 pages. I was between like a 2 and a 3 star, and then the ending got juicy and I was like, ooh, maybe I should 4-star this. But then I thought about it and was just like, I didn't enjoy this enough as a whole to give it 4 stars, so that's why I settled on a 3.5. There's a lot of points that I liked, but a lot that was just really boring. So now that we've talked about the book as a whole, I want to go more in depth into the character of Meredith and how similar he is to me. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by how similar we actually are. And I pretty much related to all of his personality traits except for one, which wasn't really that big of a deal. It was literally the fact that he liked classic literature, and I just filmed a video where I basically said classic literature bores the heck out of me, and then he mentioned like liking philosophers and old literature, and I was like, I do not identify with that. But pretty much everything else about his character I did, find myself in, besides the fact that he's just, like a 60-year-old man named Meredith. Like, obviously I'm not similar to him physically, and I might be reaching here and finding things in myself that maybe aren't actually true because I'm looking for similarities, but I actually really think that we have a lot in common. The number one thing that I think I can relate with the character of Meredith in this book is that he is very hesitant and he is not very confident in his abilities. And that sounds really emo saying that I relate to that, but I definitely do. I'm not saying that I'm not confident in my abilities, but for instance, if we're looking at my booktube channel, I am not always confident about the ideas that I want to put out there, and I feel like people don't necessarily receive the video ideas that I'm the most excited about as the same level of excitement that I have with it. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, like, I'm saying, like, I feel discouraged oftentimes because people are more interested in watching like TBRs and wrap-ups, and that is totally fine. That is the content that you like. If you want to watch that. But I get really excited about my ideas like reading like a Kardashian or reading books with characters that have the same name as me, and I just feel like it isn't often well received. So I definitely do struggle with confidence in that relation, definitely specifically with my booktube channel. And I'm not saying that I am super upset about it. I'm just saying, like, I can definitely relate to those aspects because he's never really sure of his abilities and he always undersells himself. And I think that's something that I often do as well. I'm never completely sure of what I'm doing, and I always feel like I'm doing something a lot worse than I actually am. He's also described as a very loyal and trustworthy friend, which I think that I definitely am. I mean, I don't know what my friends personally think, but I'm definitely very loyal and I value friendship. So that is definitely something that I identified with as well. The last thing that I wanted to mention that I related with this Meredith in particular is that he's oftentimes described as stupid and not very observant. And I can definitely relate to this because I am not the most observant person in the world. Like, I, if anything, am the least observant person in the world. So I definitely identified with Meredith in that aspect, because I just am never aware of what's going on in the world around me. I feel like I live in my own little bubble, and part of that is due to me like having a terrible memory and just like always staying in my room, but I feel like I just lack awareness about like everything in the world. And so oftentimes I feel like I'm stupid when I don't know what's exactly being referenced. Like pop culture references is one thing for sure that I definitely am blind to. Like people will reference like a Marvel movie or like some, I don't know, classic film that I'm supposed to see, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It makes me feel kind of dumb sometimes, and also like I'm not very observant, so I definitely related to that aspect of Meredith's character as well. There's more that I could go into within his character that I definitely noted. Like he's a very devoted person, he's very sentimental, and he was described as kind of a romantic, but I feel like you can kind of weave those personality traits with a lot of the ones that I just touched on, so I don't want to go too much in depth, but basically I felt really seen by this Meredith, and I definitely think that I have a lot in common with him. So I'm done talking about this fictional Meredith for now, and I'm going to launch into my last and final book for this reading blog, which is going to be The Lake District Murder, and this follows a detective whose last name is Meredith. I believe his full name is William Meredith. So I will check in with you guys when I'm 50% of the way through that book. Hey guys, remember when I said that this vlog would hopefully take a turn for the better? I lied. I'm gonna be DNFing The Lake District Murder, and you know what? I really don't feel bad about it because none of y'all are gonna read this anyways. I guarantee you, you have never heard of this book before I started talking about it, and when I did talk about it, you were not interested in reading it. So are we really that upset that I'm DNFing this book? No, we should be happy for me because I'm not reading hot garbage, okay? Thank you. I got 50% of the way through, and I really do feel like I got a lot of characterization of the character Meredith, so I will be telling you guys how similar I am to him, but let me just talk about why I wanted to DNF this book. I have discovered through this video, if nothing else, that I do not like British detective stories. When I started this book, I thought, you know what? Maybe this could be my new thing. Maybe I will absolutely love British crime stories, and you know what? I'm gonna start reading Sherlock Holmes. I'm gonna be classy and refined, but no, that is not the case because I think that The Lake District Murder has ruined any chance of that because this book was so boring. A mystery should never be boring, but your girl was absolutely bored. Like, I have no other words to describe how I was feeling because nothing happened. It was just Meredith saying the same things over and over again in his head. And I swear to you guys, the author of this book went like on a thesaurus website, right? And he literally just selected random words to describe everything that was going on. So it was just word vomiting that had no contribution to the overall story, and it was just terrible. I did not care about this book, so like I said, I just decided to DNF it. The main premise of the story was that a body was found in a garage and it was set up to look like it was suicide. So an investigator, Inspector Meredith, comes into the picture and he's like, let me figure out what happened here. This doesn't actually look like suicide. I think someone actually killed him. So this book is just following Meredith trying to figure out who the actual killer is. But if I don't care about that, there's no point to the story. So I'm not gonna rate it because I DNF'd it about 52%, but I hated it. I would probably give this book 1 star if I finished it. So I don't recommend this book to y'all. Now let's talk about the characterization of Meredith in this book and how he was similar to me. This Meredith, I feel like, was written to be just a perfect person, which I really dislike. I think that a lot of his characteristics I do identify with, but also he didn't really have anything that was negative about him. He didn't really feel like a real person that I could empathize with because he didn't have any negative qualities. He was basically just written as someone who's like, oh, I'm this inspector, I'm gonna figure everything out and I'm great. That's just not interesting to read about. Like, I want some character to it. I want you to have some suffering backstory, and I want you to really show me why I should care about you. But he really just didn't have any of those qualities. So overall, I didn't really like his character. I mean, it's not his fault that he's perfect, it's the author's, but it was really frustrating to read about at times. Because he is this detective character, he's very inquisitive and very logical. His mind very much goes in the places of where like a detective's would, so he would think, okay, this happened, so this happened, XYZ, and all this correlates. So I don't know if I'm necessarily the same. Like, my brain goes all over the place. I'm not a very logical thinker, at least I don't think so, because someone will be talking about something and then my brain will go somewhere completely off topic and won't be relevant to the thing at hand. So I don't think that we're similar in that aspect. I will say that something I did really like and identify in this Meredith is that he was very optimistic, and he always thought that he was going to find a solution to the murder at the end. He thought he was going to find out who it was. And I think that I'm pretty optimistic. People will probably tell me like, no, you're not optimistic, you're really pessimistic. And that's true sometimes, but I think in general, I have a more positive outlook on life. And I really did identify it with his optimism. This was the Meredith that I probably identified the least with because he was described as like very logical, like I just said, and he was also described as someone who wasn't very imaginative. And I like to think that I'm creative. I mean, my major is related to art, and I like to explore different concepts and do different things. And he's very much, like I said earlier, logical. He doesn't really think outside the box. And I mean, I'm not trying to hype myself up here, but I do think that I have a more creative mind and that I don't like to think of things as just one thing. He's also described as very energetic, very confident. He's very determined. And I think that I relate to some of these aspects. I touched on the confidence level earlier with my second Meredith. And I think that I don't necessarily relate to the confidence abilities in this Meredith because, like I said, I related to the Meredith more in Five Little Pigs. This is getting really confusing because now there's 4 Merediths that we're talking about. But the Meredith in the Lake District murder was described as confident, which I can only sort of relate to. But I think that I can relate to his energetic and determined qualities because I feel like that's who I am. And I also touched on that in the first Meredith with The Kiss of Shadows, where we were talking about how she's very determined and she's very perseverant. She will always go and get what she wants. And I think that I am similar to that. So I definitely related to those qualities in both the first Meredith and the last Meredith. This is getting way too confusing. I hope you guys are following what I'm saying because I'm not. Anyways, that is all I'm going to say about this Meredith because basically he's just like a cookie cutter character. He's very perfect, and I don't think that's very interesting to talk about. But what I did figure out with this experiment is that, one, I am kind of similar to characters with my name. I didn't necessarily expect me to be similar or not similar to them, but it was interesting to see that confirmation on paper that maybe Merediths just have like similar energies to them. I don't know. I mean, this isn't scientific. This isn't actually backed up. In fact, I only read about 3 Merediths, so I could read about others that are completely different from me. Honestly, we were all really similar, and that was pretty shocking to me. There were a couple personality traits that I didn't necessarily identify with within each Meredith, but overall, we had a lot of things in common. I will say that my favorite book for this reading vlog was Five Little Pigs because it was the only one I finished, and then I'm going to put A Kiss of Shadows second because it's not the book's fault that I didn't like it. But Lake District Murder, you have no excuse. This book was just awful. And that leads me to the second thing that I learned about myself in this video, and that's that I just don't like British crime stories. So we actually did learn a few things about myself throughout this experiment. Anyways, that is all for this video today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know that I DNF'd 2 of the 3 books for this video, so I am very sorry about that, but don't lie to yourself. You weren't gonna read these anyways. So comment down below if there are any books with fictional characters that share your names and if you have anything in common with them. I would love to know if it's just something that I noticed with my name or if that's something that is across the board. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Also, I do have a Twitter and an Instagram, and I would love to connect with you there, and that'll be linked in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.